Welcome to the Teamwork Advantage podcast with Greg Gregory. Join us as Greg interviews powerful thought leaders and successful team and leadership experts from across the country on teamwork, leadership, and organizational culture. Now let's check in for this week's episode.
Welcome back to the Teamwork Advantage, a podcast that's dedicated to the growth, development, and advancement in three critical areas: teamwork, leadership, and culture. Folks, we're privileged to be coming into your lives with ideas and tips that can help you grow yourselves, your teams. And the teams can be your church team, it can be your choir team, it can be a work team, it can be all across the board, personal life, even families. So what we're going to share today is going to kind of go right through some of those things. Think how you can apply them in work, but think how you can apply them in your personal lives as well. We've delivered over 100 episodes out there, and we're excited about that. We've been downloaded in 80 countries around the world. And this movement about teamwork and coming together is really, really powerful. So joining us today, we've got another expert in the area of employee development. And what we're looking at really is a gentleman who comes with an HR background. Matter of fact, he's known as Rich, the HR guy. We've got the HR guy coming in to talk to us. His expertise and understanding of the HR world comes from living it for 25 years. He's currently the human resources consultant, and as a corporate leader has held critical roles at leading companies, creating, sustaining a level of employee engagement, trust organizations do naturally occur. So Rich works closely with business leaders to strengthen their employee to employer relationship. He's often assigned to project teams that have recently laid off 11,000 people, leaders and team members over several years, and multiple employees. He's also been a successful human resources leader at Home Depot, Circuit City, Penske, and Lowe's. He's even named Hero of the Economy by CNN for work performed while he was at Circuit City. We'll chat about that a little bit today. He is known throughout the profession as the HR guy, as we've talked about, but he's also authored two books: Career Trust and Unleashing Your Career Fulfillment that you're seeking. Guys, that's super powerful because we spend so much of our time at work, and Rich, you know this better than anybody, is the number of people that work to live as opposed to live to work. Those ratios aren't right. You know, so many people are working all the time. So we got to think about that. Outside of work, Rich is dedicated to helping people make the world better. He holds 3 leadership roles within Rotary International, supporting clubs from Pennsylvania through South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us is Rich, the HR guy from Richmond, Virginia. Hello, Rich.
Thank you, Greg. It's great to be here. And before I forget, I wanted to congratulate you on your continued success. Look, the Teamwork Advantage podcast, focusing on teamwork, leadership, and culture, what you've been calling TLC, is spot on and frankly badly needed in today's public and private workforce. So again, great work. Great to be here.
We're excited to have you here. So before we get into this and talk about where you are today, because you've got an illustrious career there, how you didn't wake up, in high school one day saying, I'm going to go into HR. So tell us a little brief, Reader's Digest version for those who remember that book. Tell us about your path to get here.
Sure. My last semester at San Diego State University, I had an elective to burn, and I found this course called Personnel Management. And I go, okay, this looks interesting. One elective, one more class to burn in my last semester. Then I'll get that slice of wood in my back pocket called the diploma. And I love the class. Got an A in it. I was extremely motivated. And I didn't have a business degree, didn't have a human resource degree. So I hit the ground running in a non-personnel at that point. And then, later on in my career, I got married. My wife delivered our first child. And I think it took that to kind of refocus me on what's most important. How do I see myself career-wise? And by that time, we'd morphed into the term human resources. So I put my name in the hat to join the company's HR team at the time. And I got the green light and joined the team and never looked back. And it's really the work that I've been able to do. Fortunately, it really aligns with my career purpose, which is helping people find career fulfillment.
Hmm.
Anything I do in HR, and really what we do in HR, is it will end up helping people with their career fulfillment, help them provide meaning, help them hopefully get a chance to pursue the passions that they want. So that was my story. And along the way, Greg, you mentioned I've been fortunate to work for some terrific companies, including the Home Depot and Lowe's, Penske and Circuit City. So it's been a terrific ride. Thanks.
Yeah. And what's interesting is HR gets a really bad rap. It really does. Everybody thinks, from the management side, thinks HR is all for the people, and the employees think they're all for management. What is the main crux of what HR does?
HR's number one charge, and I'm real quick to remind my fellow HR practitioners out there, HR department's number one charge is helping leaders become better leaders. That's it. In fact, I often advocate for every dollar that you have to spend on discretionary spending, spend 99 cents of it on leadership development. Help the leaders become better leaders.
Hmm.
That's it. And the potential confusion about, does HR focus on the front line? It's an easy trap to fall into as an HR practitioner, is to focus on the frontline levels. It's very, very it's easy, it's popular, call it what it is. What I do personally, I spend a lot more time with the supervisors and the managers. And here's why. Where the magic happens is the frontline employees, because that's the majority of your workforce. But if your supervisors and your managers are not feeling the love, they may not be passing down the love.
Hmm.
So they've got to feel good about their employment experience. Because I've seen it time and time and again, the level of productivity and engagement at the front level, the frontline team member level, is often in parallel with how their supervisors and managers feel about their employment experience.
Right. So there, all of a sudden, now in what you just said, we've hit two of the facts of the TLC: leadership and teamwork. They've got to be symbiotic and work together, because that's going to create the culture. Because guess what? If one's not working symbiotically, then you're not going to get the right culture. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the teamwork thing, the ability for the employee to be fully engaged and eventually fully fulfilled is often depending on their ability to relate to the managers within the location, not just their supervisors. If you're in a distribution center with 700 team members, each of those 700 team members need to feel some kind of a connection to that general manager. They may not speak to the general manager terribly often, because there's 3 or 4 layers of management in between them, but
Hmm.
they've got to feel a connection. They've got to feel that they understand what that person is about, who the person is. And some of the best leaders I've seen, literally, I've seen people in distribution centers of 700 to 900 people. I've seen some general managers who know the first name of each of the team members upon greeting at them. So how you doing today, Brian? How you doing today, Sandy? That's remarkable.
It's
With
incredible.
25% 25% turnover every year, new hires, people leaving, and there's 700 to 900. And the few that really make it a point to know the names of their team members. And these are often 24/7 operations.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's
absolutely incredible when that happens. I've seen some great
yeah.
general managers of plants. They actually have been known to go in and work a midnight shift with
Mhm.
people to do things like that. And when they do that, it really draws the strength of the organization. So
Yeah,
let's talk for just a minute about HR today. Has gotten so, it used to just be, well, here's HR and there's 1 or 2 people. HR has expanded to multiple specificities. Is that the right way to phrase that?
Yeah.
In certain areas, and regardless of what it happens to be. So HR has definitely changed over the last 15, 20, 30 years, no doubt about it. I mean, it's gone from personnel to human resources. And now we're getting other phrases such as human capital and all kinds of other languages about that. But bottom line is it all comes back down to human resources because there's humans that are working your business. So in the last 20-ish years or so, what have been some of the changes, and really what's been the biggest change in HR, whether it's a mentality or an actual something?
So clearly the biggest change over the 25 years has really been the invention and execution of employee engagement. Really started to take hold around 2002, where it more from employee satisfaction. Employee satisfaction is okay, it wasn't terribly refined. So the concept of employee engagement, and they've actually created a metric around it. But employee engagement is, does the employee know what to do? Does the employee understand that what they do fits into the company's objectives? Do they have the resources to do their job? Do they feel that they're inclined to offer some discretionary effort? So that's employee engagement. And companies, many companies have utilized employee surveys, and typically about once every 18 months, survey the populations by department, by work group, by company, and through a series of statements, typically 50 to 70 statements, they'll determine an engagement index. 50 to 70 statements they're going to respond to, and it'll all break down and categorize. But within that survey result, you'll have an engagement index, and we'll call it location A. Engagement index is 67% favorable. Okay, that's a good number. And location B would be 52% engaged. And that location obviously needs some work, and there was some big concerns. But employee engagement has really become probably, I believe, the biggest thing that's happened. You can assign a metric to it. And when you don't assign a metric to it, at the very least, in talking to team members at all levels, keyword is all levels, don't just survey the frontline supervisors, managers, talking to them. As an example, I've gone in, logged thousands and thousands of hours on my feet, talking to team members, supervisors, and managers, and look for feedback, look for what they like, what they wish was different, what clarifications I can provide, and validating some things for the location management. Like, well, I'm an outsider coming in. What would you like me to validate? What's new that you want to find out if there's some positive traction? So anyway, so employee engagement has absolutely been the biggest thing over the last 25 years.
Those surveys are powerful. Are there any tips an organization could use in structuring the questions, or is it the consultants that come in with the right questions to make sure that they're getting clear answers?
It's the consultants will come in and they'll have the employee engagement questions, and it's typically between 3 and 8 questions. The favorable responses for a specific 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 questions that will determine the index.
Okay.
It's not that the other questions are unimportant, because the other questions, they're statements. You're responding to statements, not questions. They're rating statements.
Right.
That will be used for other information, like training and development. An organization or a location might find that they're doing great in the eyes of the team members, or they're falling down. But it really is a science. It really is expertise. For example, the Gallup organization. The Gallup organization is clearly the leader in employee engagement surveying. So anyway, the experts will advise, let's use these survey questions. And by the way, let us administer it as well, because if it's administered from an outside organization, increases the chance of the employees believing that their feedback will not be seen by management, by leadership. And
It'll
that
be
is,
anonymous.
yeah, exactly. It's still an act of phobia, because while a company would rate 65% engagement, and a lot of companies would, we're between 60 and 65. There's feeling from outside sources that says, the workers in our great country, engagement levels really around a third, closer to 33 to 35% of
Wow.
people engaged in their work. So there is a difference in company survey results and outside experts, because no matter what you do, no matter what you say to team members, some of them will not believe that their scores, their ratings, cannot be viewed by management. It's always going to be that way, and that's why, in my advice, companies should never rely too heavily on computer generated opinion surveys. So talk to your team members.
Yeah.
Get out there, get to know them, ask questions.
Yeah.
Make it a safe haven. It's amazing some of the feedback you'll get, one-on-one, talking to a team member.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I had a client one time and they had about 700 employees. So we wanted to get a good mix of people. So I wanted to interview, about 180 to 200 people. And I took a team with me and we sat down and we interviewed people for 30 to 45 minutes each to get the answers. Because doing the individual stuff, being an outside person, they were much more open to engaging and sharing the information. Because technology, a survey monkey's okay, but things can happen. So the way that you're talking about this is really powerful.
Yeah, and some companies still want to use focus groups, bring a group of 12 people in at a time and be facilitated by somebody within the company but outside the location, or somebody outside the company. And believing that they're going to get candid information to team members. Guess what? Some of those team members have no idea who some of the other team members are in the room, and they're not apt to speak up. They'll give favorable information, but when it comes to constructive feedback, it's like, I ain't doing this because I don't know if my information is going to be protected. So I'm not a big fan of focus groups. That one-on-one feedback is super, super important. And in fact, I've had 24/7 operations that I've supported, and I'm going in and doing kind of a temperature check based on request of the general manager, or just based on a once a year rhythm. I'm going to spend a lot of time on the evening shift and the overnight shift. It's going to be equal. Real convenient to go in and hang around from 9 to 5 and talk to people. But when the operation's 24/7, and some of the graveyard team members don't often see the general managers much, that's a critical group to.
Going in those overnight shifts is a powerful way to win.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even
Absolutely.
for a speaker, trainer, consultant to do some of that information overnight is really, people are like, wow, you're coming in on my time? That's incredible.
It makes a huge statement. In fact, my favorite time is not sitting at a desk. My favorite time is, frankly, being on my feet.
Yeah.
Talking to team members, talking to supervisors, talking to managers, and when I do talk to location managers, I can sit there and opposite them at their desk. We can chat away, but I prefer, let's go, man. Let's walk. And we walk and talk at the same time.
I had somebody one time, a manager says, whenever I need to have a conversation, and air quotes on this, I have a conversation with an employee, i.e. it's not great information. He says, I always take them for a walk. I was like, so in other words, every time you get an employee who wants to go for a walk, they know what's coming.
And I remember, look, Steve Jobs, wonderful person. I really miss the man. Never had a chance to meet him, but I wish I would have. He was notorious for walking with a member of the corporate headquarters at Apple. Let's go walk, and they walk this park-like environment. And some of the best ideas, best
Came from him.
collaboration came on his walks.
Mhm.
But I think it's also important for leaders to be present. Zoom is great. Greg, you're in Maryland and I'm in Virginia today. And Zoom is great. And telephone's still helpful. We have this thing called text messages and emails. But I got to tell you, the face-to-face interaction, to me, it's still
Yeah.
priceless.
Oh,
Gotta be,
absolutely.
gotta be present. How many times, I've been a regional HR and regional employee relations, for the balance of my career. And if it was the Western US DCs for the Home Depot and all the DCs for Lowe's and the Southeast for Penske. And, I've had too many employees tell me, it's like, Rich, I'm glad you're here. Can I take a minute? I probably wouldn't have called you for this, but since you're here, can I ask you a question? And it's absolutely. And some of the questions were, okay, that's easy, a small clarification. And there's been a few of them, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I'm here today. This is a
Hmm.
little concerning what this team member and is telling me. And I would probably not have learned about this
If
unless
you hadn't walked out.
I was present. Right.
Yeah, there's a couple of clients of mine. They actually go out 4 times a year, once a quarter, to sit down and meet with. They literally live and work in their office, another part of this country, but they go and spend a week out there once a quarter, just to hang out with them. And we're talking a small level. We're not talking hundreds of people. So that presence is powerful. Now, let me ask you a question about engagement specifically. When we're looking at employee engagement, it's not just the leader that's required to get people engaged. Team members can help in that. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So team members,
What are some ways, let's talk about team members first. What are
Mhm.
some ways that team members, I can keep Bob over here engaged a little bit. What can I do to help him, or what can he do to help other people?
Yeah, team members not only just helping people, but make sure everybody understands that we're all part of the solution. We should all be part of the solution, and each one of us counts. So speak up. If you have an idea, share it with somebody, share it with a supervisor, share it with a man, share it with a manager. But
Hmm.
also show your concern, because for team members who are not having a good day, or some team members who are frankly not happy most days, help out your team member. Yeah, the supervisor and the manager are going to jump in, but when a team member takes care of their coworker, takes care of their peer, that is incredibly powerful. It's a terrific feeling. A lot of people don't expect it. They always expect your supervisor or your manager to come take care of you when you're in a challenging time. Tell you, when team members, when the peers jump in, it's an amazing, absolutely amazing feeling. I'll give you an example. When I was at the Home Depot, you got this merit badge, not a merit badge. There was a term for it, but you got a badge. It was worth $20 for doing something, for something really awesome. You got them, and you saved up, and you turned in five for $100, and that was great. Some people did that, but often somebody's house got flooded, they got evicted, they're in a pinch, they're not sure how they're going to pay their next month's rent. Team members would toss in their merit badges. So here, they give them to the company, give them to the person, and all of a sudden the person has 500 or $1,000, by way of the merit badges. It's amazing. That's team camaraderie.
And that's so powerful because so many people think engagement is a foo-foo word.
Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons for it. Engagement frustrates some people. It's not perfect. Nothing is. There's a couple of perceptions, whether true or not, that exist, that some HR leaders hide behind engagement by telling the leader, yeah, do that, but I'm not sure if that's consistent with our model of employee engagement. Or you can do that, but I think you might hurt your employee engagement levels. So there's downside to everything, and there are comments that we HR people hide behind employee engagement a little bit.
Mhm.
So unfortunately.
So what is something that an employee can do? I mean, obviously, tossing in the merit badges if your organization has that is fine. But let's assume that there's not that there, and let's assume that we're working with IT people or hire in certain people who get it, but they're just like, I'm going to my job, that type of thing. What are some of the greatest things that an individual can do to help somebody else?
Gosh, outside of the financial thing,
Yeah,
to me,
aside from financial, because they can't necessarily
yeah,
give
yeah,
them that.
no.
Yeah.
It just make sure they feel included and feel a sense of sense of belonging. You're an important part of the team. Your input is very, very helpful. During a morning powwow or a monthly team meeting, Cindy, what do you think? Jimmy, we were talking about something similar, me and you last week. Share it with the group, would you? Encourage the person to share their ideas
Yeah.
with the team is incredibly impactful. You just lifted that person's level of engagement and their pride immensely by doing it, because some people are not comfortable talking in a group.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
some people just need a little bit of a nudge or a little bit of an opportunity to speak up.
Hmm.
So when you can help that person, regardless if they're just an introverted person or if they're just down, if they're just having a rough spell, giving them a chance, nudging them to speak up goes a long way.
You said something really key just a moment ago, and that's create a sense of belonging. When you do that ties right into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Having that sense of belonging, being able to feel like you're part of something bigger. So that's absolutely critical. Another thing that I have found that helps, and tell me if this works or not, 5 words that any single person can do with any other single person. Caveat, it's got to be genuine. It can't be fake.
Mhm.
5 words. I am proud of you.
I'm proud of you. The Penske organization, Roger Penske is an amazing man. And they say that practically everything he touches turns to gold. He's got an incredible logistics organization, truck rental. He's got the car racing and he's got the auto dealerships. He's into a lot of different things and he's amazing, but one person can't run that big conglomerate, can't be everywhere.
No.
But one thing about the Penske organization, the Penske culture that I really enjoyed is they made people feel important.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It was very simple. And they didn't have a name for it. And they didn't go out and say how many people to make feel important today. They didn't do that. It was just part of the culture as a leader. It was a very, very, very simple culture, but they did a phenomenal job of making people feel important
Mm-hmm.
from the leadership levels, throughout the leadership levels, but down to the front level leaders. In fact, our executive vice president actually started out as a diesel mechanic. I remember him telling me this story about the first time he met Roger Penske, and he was under a truck and his hands were all greasy. And Roger says, "I'm Roger Penske, you know, happy to meet you." And he extended his hand to what was now, when I worked in the executive VP, his hands all full of grease because he was a mechanic. And he goes, "My hands all greasy." He goes, "I don't care." Roger, it didn't matter, Roger Penske, that the mechanic's hand had grease on it. He wanted to shake his hand and
Mm-hmm.
thank him for doing a great job. And wow, it's so simple. And
Yeah.
that's what helped build the Penske organization.
Yeah.
Nothing scientific about it.
Yeah. Bill Marriott was a lot the same way in what he would do with people when he would go do his site visits and walk through the hotels. He would take time to meet and speak with housekeepers all the way through and got to know them. And when an employee at a particular hotel had hit 25 years, he would send a personal handwritten note.
Oh, that's amazing. So, by the way, my second day on the job at the Home Depot, I actually met Bernie Marcus, who's the founder and CEO of the Home Depot at that time. And trust me, I was not on Bernie's calendar. I went to get in the elevator and I opened the elevator and there was Bernie Marcus. Like, wow, there's Bernie Marcus. Shook his hand and, over the 20-second elevator ride, he was as genuine as the millions of people before me said he was. He was just incredibly courteous and inspiring. And it's amazing. It really is about leadership. In fact, we're talking about employee engagement, Greg, and that's good. That's an important metric. But without leadership, good leadership, trying to measure employee engagement, not sure that matters.
Right.
It does come down to leadership.
So let's talk about the leader. We talked about the employees peer-to-peer engaging. Obviously, a leader has to hold people accountable. We get that. But what can a leader do? What can a leader sitting at his or her desk today, or taking their dog for a walk, or driving right now while listening to this, what can a leader do today with some of their employees to help them feel more engaged?
The best thing a leader can do, I think, the best decision they'll ever make is letting somebody else on their team make the decision. And here's why. Too often, leaders want to make the decisions themselves. Delegating decision making does not come naturally to a lot of leaders. They've got to work at it. So while they're capable of making decisions, good decisions, no question, they need to delegate that authority. Let people and the levels above them make the decisions. They will grow. And the decisions that they're delegating that the other team members make, not likely to bankrupt a company. So let them make them. And if it's a bad decision, take the learnings. But you got to grow your leaders and you got to give them a chance to grow as they become better. Absolutely, empower them, but make them better leaders. That will translate to a higher level of perception and employee engagement in the front lines. And that's how business results happen. Right. That's how the magic happens.
I have talked to a lot of folks who have left company A to go to company B. And the primary reason they did was they followed their boss. Great leaders develop followers. And that is so incredibly critical. Admiral James B. Stockdale, and I'm going to butcher the quote, in the book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. He's talking about what we need are leaders who are so powerful that in effect they do away with the need of their jobs. But in fact, they're never out of a job, they're never out of followers. Strange as it sounds, great leaders gain authority by giving it away.
You're absolutely right.
I got that pretty close.
No, after I graduated from college, back then it was who you're going to work for, and the who you're going to work for is the name on the company, the name on the sign, the name on the marquee, and now it's done a 180. It's who you're reporting to and who's that person reporting to, and their abilities as leaders, and not saying the company name is unimportant. It's just a lot less important.
Right.
These days.
It's the people. And today with generation millennials and Zs, they're more about the experience and what the company means than they necessarily are about a paycheck. And so does the company have that background going there? And that's really careful to make sure we're walking that fine line, that we do that for people. You've said something else that's really key to me is how employees share their knowledge and share that information. Can you expand on what you mean by that?
Yeah. So some people think that knowledge is power. And if you hold the knowledge, you've got power. And if only you and a coworker have the knowledge, but you hold the power. And it's kind of a shallow way of thinking. The best thing to do is share it with everybody. The power of transparency is amazing. You know, organizations that share their financials, by location, by company, with the team members, that's great. But inspiring the team members to share it with their fellow team members, if it's how to do something, how the department's doing, how the department's trending, absolutely amazing. Share the wealth. So it creates a more cohesive environment. And unfortunately, there are some companies out there where secrecy is frankly a core value or an unwritten core value. Those companies don't do as well as the
Right.
companies that are just transparent. So the frontline team members saying, I want to make sure you heard of what we're doing. You probably have, but our division is making this change in a couple of months from now. I just want to make sure you're included, because this is important to us. We're shipping from electricity to gas or whatever. Yeah, what's is a single decision, is a single piece of information, if it's disseminated, is it likely going to sink the organization if it got out? I doubt it.
Probably not. Yeah. Yeah. It's the more we share, it goes back to a John Kennedy quote, a rising tide raises all ships. And so when we get everybody on that same page, working together to share the knowledge, helps you create the engagement. There's absolutely no doubt about it, which long term, that's going to increase motivation of people to want to work there. And those things all come together. As we get ready, time's flying, and I'm enjoying this because there's so much we could keep talking about, Rich. But a couple of things I want to kind of address here. I got one question here in particular. You're talking to kids graduating college, they're thinking about getting into HR. What advice would you give somebody today who's thinking about the human resources, human capital, personnel, whatever term you want to tie to it? What advice would you give them?
Get into a leadership capacity. Again, HR department's number one charge is helping leaders become more effective leaders, and making the jump from a leadership capacity into human resources. It's easier than going from a lifelong or career-long individual contributor capacity to human resources. So because you'll be able to walk the talk, you understand the challenges of what it is to be a leader. And so the people that you're working with are leaders. And so you can relate to them, they can relate to you. So understand how they work and the challenges they work under. So that would be my thing. I mean, somebody who wanted to go into human resources tomorrow, that's difficult. It can be difficult to break into. So meanwhile, become a leader, because many times we take people from leadership positions right into human resources. So we take people from leadership into human resources more often than we take individual contributors right into human resources.
Wow, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Talk to me about your books. You've got Career Trust and Unleashing Your Career. Which one was first?
Sure, absolutely. So my career purpose is to help people find career fulfillment. So I wrote them both to help people find career fulfillment. One is a 52 chapter, and the other is a 31 chapter book. 52, pick it up once a week, read one chapter. Probably take you about 2 to 3 minutes. The other one's a daily read, and they're all tips, and they're all based on reality and not theory. Okay. So, and they're told from Rich the HR guy, and they're designed to help people. And it's not just in their career, but there's also some leadership tips. I have a strong opinion on the command and control style, and it's time to go. It's one of my chapters. And if you have two companies to look at posing job offers, look at the leadership style of companies. One might be command and control, and one might be servant leadership. And the one that said command and control leadership style is the equivalent of a fax machine. So command and control still utilized in fire rescue, police, and military, and that's appropriate. But some companies are still using command and control, which is kind of surprising. They're using the leadership style that was popular during the Roman Empire. So when you have a chance to look at organizations, look at their leadership style, look at their company culture. The other thing I addressed within the books is being a giver, volunteering your time, taking care of people who take care of others. I think there's a real value in people who help society. For me, today it's in Rotary. After I retire, I'm going to become a wish granter for adults diagnosed with a terminal illness.
Okay.
It's important to give back. There's a huge value to giving back. And if you look at successful people, peel back the onion, and you will find that they give back. They're involved in community. So those
and
are
they
some.
don't do it for publicity.
Absolutely, yeah. Don't be a.
There are some amazing people in the
Yeah.
entertainment world who give like nobody's business, and nobody knows about it because they don't want to be known for that.
Oh, Keanu Reeves, I swear the guy gives away most of the money he makes. So, and he rides the subway in his jeans and tennis shoes alongside everybody else.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And look, whether it's you're bolting onto a group like Rotary or Kiwanis, or you're volunteering to help with the Heart Association walk, or the Cancer Society walk. Find something to do aligned with some kind of community mission. So there's a few chapters on that as well.
Okay. Which, by the way, career trust or unleashing your career, which one is 52 of which one is 31?
Yeah, the career trust is 52 doses of reality, and unleashing your career is 31 insights.
And those are both designed for employees, regardless of the field of position they're in. It's not
Absolutely.
specific to HR, not specific to retail or anything of that nature.
Yeah, they're both designed to anybody who seeks career fulfillment, which is frankly employee engagement on steroids. And because a career is a terrible thing to waste. I calculated the average person works 90,000 to 120,000 hours during the balance of their career. And that's a lot of hours dedicating to moving stuff from the inbox to the outbox, or finding work that provides meaning, that aligns with their sense of purpose, that makes a dent in our society. Again, moving stuff from the inbox to the outbox should never be acceptable. That should not be the design. That should not define you.
If folks want to get hold of you and find out more,
what's
the best way?
I'm all over LinkedIn. You can find Rich Salon, or you can find Rich the HR guy.
I'll give everybody a little tip here. Do Rich the HR guy, because when you do Rich Salon, you're going to find a whole bunch of stuff about salons.
There you go, beauty salons. If you go Rich the HR guy in Google, you'll find me. And I also have a website. I own the domain richthehrguy.com. So Rich at richthehrguy.com, you'll get me.
Right.
But please, and find it on LinkedIn. Is very, very visible on LinkedIn.
All right. So again, the books are Career Trust and Unleashing Your Career. Get them on Amazon or wherever you pick up your books. See what you find. Rich, this is very informational, helpful to a lot of people in a lot of different directions. We hit some key elements, and I'm really excited. Love to have you come back on here and talk about some more down the road if you're open for that.
Greg, I'd be thrilled. And again, thank you for the work that you're doing. Leadership, teamwork, culture, that's what makes organizations successful or not.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that vote of confidence. Folks, remember, the Teamwork Advantage is about teamwork, leadership, and culture. And our goal is to help you find at least one or two things each episode that you can actually implement in your daily life, in your business. So we already know that if you listen to the Teamwork Advantage, you're not average. So good days are for average people. Go make today excellent and exceptional. Till next time, take care. Bye-bye.